Metro Transit is hiring bus drivers with paid training, great benefits, and starting pay at $29 plus per hour. No CDL? Metro Transit will help you get one. This is your chance to build a stable career while making a real impact in your community, connecting people where they need to go every day. Move up with Metro Transit. Learn more by visiting metrotransit.org. Again, that's metrotransit.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Heart health is more than just the physical well-being. It represents like a foundation of vitality, resilience, and the ability to live fully.
Your heart carries stories of resilience, love, and survival. Caring for your heart means honoring yourself and the generations before and after you. It means protecting your ability to gather, laugh, and be present. Learn more about your heart health at hennepincounty.gov/heart-beats, because your story matters and your heart beats for generations.
Time is running out to experience Unchi Said So at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. This powerful exhibition by Daniel Seawalker shares Native stories rooted in collective identity, generational knowledge, and teachings passed down through community. Through bold portraits and vibrant color, the work honors the significance of grandmothers in Native culture and reminds us that sovereignty begins at home. Closing June 6th, don't miss your chance to experience this powerful exhibition. Plan your visit today at allmyrelationsarts.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Today, a slight chance of storms with a high of 83, then tonight clear with a low of 63. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has the best roast beef sandwiches in the Twin Cities, but don't miss out on the chicken, fish, brisket, Philly steak, and more. Maverick's is located in Roseville on Lexington Avenue, 1 mile south of Highway 36. Visit mavericksbeef.com.
Good day to be indigenous.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Well, it's a Friday here on Native Roots Radio, and we have our friend State Senator Mary Kunesh coming on, and always great to talk to you and have you on. Thank you so much, State Senator, for coming on Native Roots Radio.
Hamatakiape, everybody. It's good to see you. Good to be here.
Well, you know, and I know kind of we reach out and talk a little bit before the show on coming on and making sure you have the capacity. But again, I want to say a big Pini Gigi. I know you might have a little jet lag, and I appreciate you coming on tonight. And maybe you can tell our listening audience what you've been doing and where you're coming from.
Oh, sure. I took the red eye home from Washington, D.C. this morning. Got up at 4 a.m. and caught a flight back to Minneapolis. I had a couple meetings this morning, and then, of course, Friday is Grandma Daycare Day, and I really hate to miss that. So, yeah, I'm a little worn out. I went out to Washington, D.C. for a conference on federalism. And I think a lot of people kind of familiar with that word, but you know, what exactly is federalism? And so, there was, probably about 24 legislators from across the country that got together, and it was led by the Council of State Government, CSG, and, they put it together, and we had, kind of a quick tutorial on the origins of federalism, and then what fiscal federalism looks like today. We talked about, and maybe I should just start off by explaining a little bit what federalism is, because we do have, a federal law, government.
Mhm.
And this is a system. I mean, we're a democracy because we elect our leaders, but the type of government, the system of government that we have in the United States is called federalism. And that's where the power is divided between like a central, like a national government, and then all the individual states and regional governments. So there's authority at the federal level, but then the states also have their own authority to make laws and decide what kind of policy that they want. And there's specific powers delegated to the national government, like what the president can do in Congress and Senate. And then there are others that, the states have their own autonomy. And but both levels of government, both at the federal level and the state level, we can make our own laws, we can levy taxes, we can reinforce and enforce any kind of regulations that we put in. But typically, the national power, the federal government, issues governs for the entire country, and that includes regulating interstate activity, foreign commerce. They declare war. States can't declare war. The federal government makes the money and manages foreign policy. We don't do that. Even though we're Minnesota, we're border with Canada. We're not, negotiating foreign policy with Canada when it comes to our borders and things like that. And then the state, we govern, our own state and the local issues that include within our state. And that's like, we have the Department of Education, even though that's been pretty much expanded, but we are responsible for overseeing public education. We have our own establishment of local government. We can regulate intra-state commerce. So that's commerce inside of the state. State commerce is between different states. And then we have our own policing powers. Like, for example, we legalized marijuana. And at the federal level, that's not.
Right.
So it was a very interesting conversation for 2.5 days. And we had Democrats, we had Republicans, and then lots of really good, oh my gosh, such intelligent and good speaking presenters there. And for me, it was really helpful for me because, as we are struggling here in Minnesota to kind of recover from ICE infiltration and the deaths of 2 of our community members, Alex Preddy and help me with Miss Good. In my district, we were really highly affected by ICE and all of the sinister things that they did. And at the federal level, they considered they were reinforcing Renee Good. She came back to me. They were enforcing their federal rights, but they were infringing on our state rights, is how I look at it.
Sure.
And in the discussion, the big question for me is like, which one prevails when they hit, when they butt each other, which one prevails? And the only thing we could do as a state was to do what we did: peacefully protest, peacefully push back, get out there and support our community members that were most affected by it and still are affected by it. And when I talked about that out there, there were some legislators that said, "Don't talk about that. That's not, you guys should have followed, whatever the federal government wanted you to do. You should have just done that."
Oh.
Kind of saying, it was our own fault. We got what we were asking for. And it's just really hard for me sometimes to remain civil.
Right.
Because they didn't see it. They didn't experience it like we did. I mean, I was out there, boots on the ground, and I saw it and I heard it. And, I was part of those groups that got
protecting our students. And
I mean, every morning, freaking cold, I was out there, patrolling the bus stops and the neighborhoods, making sure kids got to school okay. I kind of was threatened by ICE myself. I know a lot of other teachers and administrators were definitely they would follow them home. They would park outside the school board members' homes.
And then they said your name that one time too.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, good to see you here this morning." And it just freaked me out.
Right. Intimidation.
Well, yeah. And it's like, how do they know my name? I don't have any identifying information on my body that they could see. It would have to be like facial recognition. So you wonder at what point do they have resources for facial recognition, and what is it? So it was very interesting. I have to say the weather in Washington, D.C. was absolutely gorgeous. It was not hot. It was not muggy.
Were the trees blooming?
No.
Or is that too late?
No, that was done. I was able to walk from my hotel over to the American Indian Museum, to the Botanical Garden, a walk around. I saw at night the White House lit up, and then the that pool that he redid. Yeah.
His buddies are redoing, and they don't know what they're doing, but they like to take the money. Hey, we are here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we're talking about her travels, but also what's happening locally, federally, and great conversation. We're going to be right.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. For a meal that feeds your soul and health, check out Gatherings Cafe. Located in the renovated Minneapolis American Indian Center, Executive Chef Vernon Defoe and team serve up incredible indigenous flavors. Gatherings Cafe has amazing bison tacos featuring lean protein from native wise, corn tortillas, and homemade sides. It's fresh, local food rooted in ancestral knowledge. Stop by for breakfast or lunch. That's Gatherings Cafe, where tradition meets innovation.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Time is running out to experience Unchi Said So at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. This powerful exhibition by Daniel Seawalker shares Native stories rooted in collective identity, generational knowledge, and teachings passed down through community. Through bold portraits and vibrant color, the work honors the significance of grandmothers in Native culture and reminds us that sovereignty begins at home. Closing June 6th, don't miss your chance to experience this powerful exhibition. Plan your visit today at allmyrelationsarts.org.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and I wanted to say a big shout out to her granddaughters that are in the background doing their thing. I feel like I've helped raise them on Fridays because that's your duty, and we got to see them grow up for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I just have to say, hey, you guys, I have to do my radio show now, and they're like, can we watch Paw Patrol? It's like the one time I let them watch Paw Patrol. They know they can do that during the show, so
that's awesome.
It's a win-win for everyone.
Definitely. I really enjoyed our talk about federalism in the last segment, but let's talk a little bit too how tribes work with both the state and federal government, because that's kind of a tricky thing because of our sovereignty, because we can deal with both sides of the government. Maybe you can explain that a lot better, not just a lot better than I can.
Well, it certainly is awfully complicated. And, there have been treaties agreed to, treaties that were not agreed to, treaties that were changed after the agreements or were eliminated. And, it's a really complicated relationship. I mean, there are, it still blows my mind that there are states in the union that don't have any federally recognized tribes.
Wow.
And in the United States, you have to be federally recognized to be like an authentic tribe, to receive the benefits or the agreements that were originated for those tribes. And the federal government, of course, we know, never kept their promises, especially around providing education and healthcare and housing and foods and stuff like that. And the lands continued to be taken just as they are now, happening all over the place with the Trump regime taking lands and opening them up to all kinds of disasters. But the relationship is really complicated, and it's really it's a hard one to explain because it's just like it's like a huge Venn diagram, and the system is so complex, and there's this overlapping framework of concurrent jurisdictions. Tribes are sovereign unto themselves, and so they are self-governing in that way. They have that inherent sovereignty, and that predates the U.S. And so what happens is that, especially when it comes to jurisdictional things, we have our tribal courts where our sovereign entities have that general jurisdiction over their members and their tribal lands, but they don't outside. And sometimes they can handle their own civil and criminal matters that happen inside of the reservation. And that's why sometimes it's so complicated to investigate and bring justice for like our missing and murdered relatives. Because if it happens on the tribal lands, the tribes have the jurisdiction. If they don't outside, then they don't have it. And then, then you have to bring in the federal laws, and they have power over some of the Indian affairs, and they govern federal crimes and major crimes in Indian country. And then there's the state relationship, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so often the state really doesn't have much authority over Native American and the tribes, except, and Minnesota is one of those unique states where we are what is called a public law 280 state. The state, then except for Red Lake, they said absolutely not. We don't want to have anything to do with it. But the other tribes agreed to full jurisdiction over non-tribal members and private property off of the reservation. So we have the FBI and the BCA that comes in and investigates on tribal law, and it makes it just really complicated. And then but at the end of the day, the federal law has this federal trust responsibility, and this government is legally bound and fiduciarily bound to protect tribal treaty rights, lands, and assets. But then, then the federal government will come in and say, okay, well, you might have made these laws that protect the boundary waters or protect Bears Ears or whatever. And then the federal government will come in and say, we're the boss. We're going to do it no matter what you say. So it's just very complicated.
It does sound complicated. One of the things I was wondering, and this is a hard discussion just because of my lack of mental capacity, but I know in years past, like Lincoln in 1862 didn't follow what the Supreme Court says. I know Texas doesn't listen to the Supreme Court, and it's probably because, I don't know, they don't have an army or policing. So
Yeah.
it's really complicated too with the other leg of our government, handing down laws, whether it's the state or we always talk about ICWA, but all these things that the Supreme Court is the law of the land, but yet, the natives have issues with that, and not everybody follows what the Supreme Court says. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, the U.S. Supreme Court has really no enforcement team or law enforcement personnel, so they can't really directly enforce their own rulings. And so it really is totally up to the cooperation of the executive branch. And so, right now, I think an example of that is where the federal government, we send our taxes to the federal government. We pay our taxes, and then they're supposed to, send it back to us in all these different ways for education, for healthcare, for infrastructure maintenance, all of those things. And so we send our money to them. They're supposed to send it back, and a lot of times they're in these big block grants, or there are other funding streams. Well, now what has been happening is that though the federal government under the Trump administration is withholding those grants.
Yep.
Or there's all kinds of strings attached. If it says anything about women or Black people or DEI or equity, you don't get that grant anymore. And we saw that happen right away when Trump took power. That really is sort of their one way to enforce it. Title IX, which is the law around women's sports, and there's the big issue of trans women participating in sports, and there's always that threat that they'll withhold funding if Minnesota doesn't take that law off the book that gives the trans students or athletes the right to participate in competitions. So that's really kind of the way that happens.
Yeah. Well, just to touch on that for a second, it's just like, the Republicans come up with this all the time. It's gay marriage, we're against, and trans athletes. And the weird thing is, I don't know if you can count on one hand that there's trans athletes trying to quote unquote invade women's sports. I don't even think this is an issue other than to get the orange one's base riled up.
Yeah, I don't know the number, but it is a very, 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 very low instance of things like that. Minnesota is a pro-choice state. We passed that law. And again, that is another thing that oftentimes is being threatened, that funding will be taken away because they don't want us to do that. But we're the sanctuary state in the Midwest. We're the only one that provides that kind of health service. And you know, Minnesota is like an oasis in the Midwest because we have these progressive values and laws and humanity, and we are constantly being threatened to take money away and resources away, and then somehow we have to fill in those voids. Like HCMC, they took all that money, canceled all that money for Hennepin County Medical Center, which is our state, crisis hospital.
Yes.
And so we put a lot of money into that to save it this last session, but those are dollars that could have gone to education. They could have gone to other health care, to take care of SNAP. Yep. I could go on, I guess.
No, and I appreciate you, and we never have a lack of things to talk about. Thank you for all you do. Big Peony, of course, thank you for being on our show, but also the obvious stuff of helping protect Minnesota in our ways and in a good way. And I really appreciate you coming on and appreciate all the work you do in our community and for our community.
Well, Wopila, and I'll take care. Have a good weekend.
Right on. Hey, we'll be right back.
Move up in a new career. Metro Transit is hiring bus drivers with paid training, great benefits, and starting pay at $29 plus per hour. No CDL. Metro Transit will help you get one. This is your chance to build a stable career while making a real impact in your community, connecting people where they need to go every day. Move up with Metro Transit. Learn more by visiting metrotransit.org. Again, that's metrotransit.org.
Time is running out to experience Unchi Said So at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. This powerful exhibition by Daniel Seawalker shares Native stories rooted in collective identity, generational knowledge, and teachings passed down through community. Through bold portraits and vibrant color, the work honors the significance of grandmothers in Native culture and reminds us that sovereignty begins at home. Closing June 6th, don't miss your chance to experience this powerful exhibition. Plan your visit today at allmyrelationsarts.org.
Culture prevents so many negative things from happening to us as individuals and as communities.
Strong roots begin with a healthy heart. For Indigenous women, heart health is part of caring for community, culture, and future generations. Even small steps can help protect what matters most. Discover ways to support your heart at hennepincounty.gov/hearts-beats, because your heart beats for generations. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Warmer weather, sunny skies, summer is here. At the Walker, this means mini golf is open on the rooftop. Artist-led activations return to the hillside, and the cinema has a series of curated films. It's the perfect time to visit. Gallery admissions are free every Thursday night and free every day for members and citizens of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org/summer.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. For a meal that feeds your soul and health, check out Gatherings Cafe. Located in the renovative Minneapolis American Indian Center, Executive Chef Vernon Defoe and team serve up incredible indigenous flavors. Gatherings Cafe has amazing bison tacos featuring lean protein from native wise, corn tortillas, and homemade sides. It's fresh, local food rooted in ancestral knowledge. Stop by for breakfast or lunch. That's Gatherings Cafe, where tradition meets innovation.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies tonight with a low around 62, Saturday sunny with a high near 87, and Sunday partly cloudy with a high around 89. Discover perfection at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. From Philly steak to crispy chicken, every bite is exceptional. Add freshly fried fries or rings for a winning combo. Visit mavericksbeef.com or find them off Lexington and Roseville. Unforgettable sandwiches. Maverick's Real Roast Beef.
You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Robert Pilot, and we like that
Hi,
bumper
I'm
so
Jane
much.
Fonda,
We're
and you're
playing it
listening to
again.
Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Hey, Robert
We
Pilot.
are back. That was fun. I forgot to hit the button about looping, but this is live, and we're recording this live, and I want to reintroduce Gwen. Gwen, great to have you on again. Love you to reintroduce yourselves to our listeners and our viewers out there all over Turtle Island. And last time we had a great discussion, and I'm looking forward to this discussion too. Thanks again for coming on.
Well, bonjour, Robert. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Gwen Leaf Carr. I'm from the Cayuga Nation of New York, Heron Clan. I have worked in Native empowerment politics, voting, a million and one different things, as we all do when we work in Indian country. And when I wasn't expecting Jane to say hello twice, but Jane Fonda and Ada Deer and Gloria Steinem were all friends. And also Rebecca Adamson. And all of them were friends. And Jane and Rebecca and Gloria started the Women's Media Center.
Wow.
And I think it's important that natives and non-natives know the history, the native history of, our times, our contemporary times and older times. So it was a wonderful surprise to hear Jane's voice.
That's great. And geez, I had a chance to meet Gloria Steinem years ago. She was doing a book tour here in St. Paul on Grand Avenue in one of the bookstores there. And I got her autograph and everything. And it's just great to always see history. And it sounds like you've known a lot of history of our communities and our people that fight for the people. And that's great to hear. And let's hear some more. This is really cool.
Well, I'm not the oracle, but I think I am, but I'm not, first and foremost. As we were talking about, before the show, once upon a time, we would sit around, the elders, of which I am one, and I'm going to make the assumption that you're an elder, although you may be in denial.
I'm a baby elder. I'm 65.
Well, I'm a little more old elder. Not quite where I want to be, but where I am. But once upon a time, our youth, the younger people, the ones with more stamina than we have, used to sit around and listen to us talk about life, talk about our stories, who we know, where we were, how that happened, where did that go, who did that, and I think that is something that is important. I think it's important for the young warriors that are learning their history. I think it's important for the warriors that are on the streets today to understand that while we may not be literally physically standing there with them, and sometimes we are, like Jane, she shows up, and I show up and you show up and we show up where we can, when we can, but we are always, at least I am always thinking about them, praying for them, and that they can learn and should learn how we got to where we are now by listening to, old geezers like us to reminisce and talk about, take a stroll down memory lane. So your introduction kind of sparked a memory of, for me, of one of my most beloved friends in the world, who was Ada Deer.
Wow.
And Ada Deer was first known for being the lead of the reinstatement of the Menominee tribe in Wisconsin after termination, which was a whole era that I don't think people really understand what a trauma that was. I mean, trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, you know, collective trauma, individual trauma, all of those things add up. And then all of a sudden the government decides, oh, we're not going to recognize you. And that means a lot of things, a lot of support that are treaty based, that all of a sudden, oh, we're just going to, you know, pretend we don't have a treaty with you. Well, you know, it doesn't work that way. As much as, you know, the government might like to abrogate their treaties and never, ever say that we ever had any, and they don't owe us anything, they are standing on our land. They will be standing on our land until there is no more land to stand on. So getting back to Ada, she, I knew her very well. She was probably the closest thing to a mom I ever had. I mean, we were friends, but we were, you know, connected. She knew my family. She spent a lot of time in our home. I spent a lot of time with her in Madison. We spent a lot of time on the road starting the Wisconsin Native American Caucus.
Wow.
She was political. I was political. We would see each other along the road in the 1996 convention when she was assistant secretary, the first Native woman to be assistant secretary in the government. She was at the 1996 convention, and I did all of the stuff in Chicago because it was in Chicago.
Wow.
So we did hosting the top, I think, 8 or 10 states that had the largest Native population. So we were at a Native-owned restaurant called some Chameleon, actually, ironically enough. So we were at a reception that was being held at this Native-owned restaurant, and she walked in the door, and it was like, hello. And then I moved to Wisconsin, not that long, well, a whiles after. But so we've reconnected throughout the years for many various different reasons. But you know, after I moved to Wisconsin, I got to know her well, and I heard the stories. I heard the struggle. I heard the beginning of NARF. You know, I mean, all of these things that, as I said to you before, we think we pop onto the scene and nothing has ever really occurred, or we don't know exactly who did what and who was where, and who the warriors were in the generation right before us or 2 generations before us, what our grandparents did, what our parents did. And, you know, Ada was one of those people that transcended a lot of different social constructs, political constructs, cultural constructs. Even though she was not fluent in Menominee, her language, she was the epitome of a Menominee woman. And
wasn't she not a teacher, but a counselor or something like that?
She did a bunch of things. She was a social worker. She had a degree. She got her first Native woman of her tribe to get a degree. I think she was the first Native woman to graduate from college.
Wow.
And she got her degree in social work from Columbia. And then went and did, you know, a whole bunch of things with the tribe and the reinstatement after termination. And then she went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and she lived in Madison. So she was the head of the School of Social Work.
Wow.
And she started the Native American program at UW-Madison. In the whole UW system, she started that program.
That's amazing. I got a chance to meet her the same day, the first time. I believe I got to meet her the same day I met Obama, and she was there. and then I saw her at a couple years ago. I believe it was the convention, and I emceed the convention in Wisconsin, and she was there. And my friend Arvina Martin was doing.
Sure, I know Arvina. Yeah.
Great. She was doing a 101, and Arvina always talks about how nervous she was, but she came up and said she did a great job, and Arvina said, well, if she said I did a good job, she meant it, because that wasn't her way to give out compliments like that unless it was true.
Well, she would, a lot of times, Ada was one of the most loving human beings I have ever met. I mean, I have a son with autism named Michael, and she absolutely adored him. And, you know, he has struggled sometimes to kind of talk to people and connect with people. And they had this relationship, and I saw it mirrored in relationships that she had with lots of different people. She had this way of, you know, kind of just getting into their soul and speaking to them, which is, you know, truly a gift that, you know, a lot of us would like to emulate, but I think it's really something that you either have or you don't. But Ada was able to reach in and touch the person, whoever the person was, whether it was a political speech, whether it was a speech to other Native people, whether it, you know, it didn't matter. She was really able to speak the truth in ways that people could hear. And I think that that's an important quality. It's important to know that there are truths that you can say them in ways people don't want to hear them. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But she did.
That's awesome to hear. We only got 2 minutes left here.
Sure.
And one of the things I wanted to just say real quick is that what I noticed too, by meeting her the first time, we were lined up to see Obama, literally, and all the other politicians came up to and greeted her. You know,
Oh, yes.
not just the Native people,
Oh, yes.
all of them came up with that respect. And I really we're on civic media all over Wisconsin and of course in Illinois and Minnesota. And I really love the fact that you were able to give us a quick history lesson on her. And that's great, because people need to know that and need to know our history.
Yes, and Ada was a direct pipeline to Gloria Steinem. Rebecca Adamson is another one we should talk about, because she's still here and she did, you know, First Nations and all those things. But, you know, Ada was a matriarch, and I am very interested in matriarchy and the return to matriarchy and what that means. So Ada, you know, she knew everybody, and everybody knew Ada. And I have never met a person who has said, "Oh no, I didn't like her." Not ever. And I can't say that really about many people. So I think I was at that same thing with Obama, by the way.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
cool.
actually with Ada. So anyway,
Oh wow, yeah. So that was for the lieutenant governor's rally for running for, I believe, state senator or senator. I can't remember, but
you know,
that was
I don't remember. Was that
Milwaukee. It was in Milwaukee.
I don't know. Was it for Gwen Moore? I mean, I don't remember exactly when this was. So
No, this was a couple of years ago. But I just want to say this. We only got a few seconds left here. I would love, Gwen Leaf Carr, to have you come on and give us history lessons as much as you can, because we are all over the spectrum here when it comes to people listening to us, and it's really good to hear and for me to hear. And so I really want to welcome you to Native Roots Radio.
I'm so glad to be here. And, you know, sure, I'll be Native Roots Radio, you know, local historian, you know, fun facts from Gwen Leaf Carr. I'm happy to do it.
Sounds good. You've all heard that. Hey, we'll be right back.
Move up in a new career. Metro Transit is hiring bus drivers with paid training, great benefits, and starting pay at $29 plus per hour. No CDL. Metro Transit will help you get one. This is your chance to build a stable career while making a real impact in your community, connecting people where they need to go every day. Move up with Metro Transit. Learn more by visiting metrotransit.org. Again, that's metrotransit.org.
Maintaining our health, particularly our heart health, is very important to us as a family.
Your heart gives you time with family, time with community, time to pass down what matters. Protecting your heart helps keep those moments alive. A visit with a healthcare provider can be one step toward a healthier future. Learn more at hennepincounty.gov/hearts-beats. Your heart health is essential because your heart beats for generations.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Visit during free Thursday nights. Every week from 5 to 9 p.m., there's something new to explore. Enjoy date-friendly events like artist talks, performances, and exhibition openings, or explore art-making open library hours and exhibition tours. Settle into your weekend among community. Free every Thursday night and free every day for citizens and members of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org.
Hi, I'm Tiergan.
And I'm Hadley.
We're two of the very first listeners, and we're
still listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Native Roots Radio, and I just want to give a quick shout out to those two. I saw them today at All My Relations Art Gallery, and it was great to see Tiergan and Hadley and the first listeners of Native Roots Radio. Hey, we are here with Gwen Leaf Carr, and just great to finish up our conversation. What wisdom do you have? And I really love when we talk about the women that have really led the way over the years, and it's so cool to hear that you've had a lot of relationships with people out there that have really made a difference and really have been helping their people for so many years. So thanks again, Gwen, for coming back.
Certainly, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Gwen Leaf Carr. I am from the Cayuga Nation of New York, Heron Clan, and I have been working in Native sovereignty and advocacy and politics for longer than I care to admit. So it's always a pleasure. And our conversation about Ada Deer and Gloria Steinem and Rebecca Adamson that we haven't really gotten to yet, but I really would like to do at some point, maybe not today, but a little bit in another show, about some of the women who have come before us. And, some of the women that have never been mentioned before, Marge Bear Don't Walk in Montana, and Sandy Chinchulli, who is from Philadelphia, who was very involved in the Carlisle School Project. And other women that I have met along the way, and certainly the famous ones, Gloria Steinem and the Women's Media Center, and LaDonna Harris, and so many women that have gone before us and done such amazing things. And Wilma Mankiller, who is I knew from who didn't know her, from Oklahoma, the first chief of the Cherokee, woman chief of the Cherokee in Oklahoma, where I was lieutenant governor, and Barbara Warner, who is an unsung heroine in Indian country, who was the Indian commissioner in Oklahoma for a very long time. I was there when they put the statue on top of the dome in Oklahoma. That was done by, let me see. I have a piece of art, Kelly Haney. So he did this beautiful statue. So I've been around for a while.
Yeah. A few years ago, Barbie came out with a Mankiller doll, and it was amazing. And if you try and get that now on eBay, it's $500-600. And what a tribute, and good on Mattel for doing that, because that's somebody, again, you said a first chief of Cherokee Nation.
Right.
Amazing.
Right. And there are tribal leaders. women urban Indian leaders, because we're in Minneapolis right now. This is the home of urban Indians. Donna Fairbanks, who is a good friend of mine, who started the White Earth housing project in Minneapolis. I started the Urban Indian Policy Coalition back in the 90s. That has now kind of turned into the Urban Indian Family Coalition. But we had 220 urban Indian leaders. Donna Fairbanks was one of them. Bernie White Bear from Seattle, who is, he was this very mild-mannered, quiet man who was, at Alcatraz and very much a leader in Indian country back in the day. So, I met all of the urban Indian leaders. I met, tribal leaders. I was really fortunate to be at this very tumultuous but important time. Where, Harold Monto and, of course, Ernie Stevens Jr., who was, Ernie Stevens Jr. was the first Indian I ever met, ever.
Oh.
I mean, other than my son.
what I've had the opportunity, and I got to just tell you a quick story of Madonna Thunderhawk.
Oh, okay, sure.
And I was at, I believe it was the 2 years before the 50th anniversary of Wounded Knee, and she was there. And so she was 78 or 79. And I had her on the show a few times prior to that, and Warrior Women Project. And she came like galloping by on a horse. She was on a horse at 78. And there's somebody that's been to Alcatraz, Wounded Knee, Line 3, Dakota Access Pipeline, all these things.
And speaking of Dakota Access Pipeline, Rebecca Adamson was the one who did the financing for that whole project. And nobody really knows that. Maybe I'm not supposed to say anything, but she was very involved in the financial, getting corporations to pull their financing from that project. Wow. So I mean, Rebecca Adamson started First Nations Development, First Peoples International, involved in the Dakota Access Pipeline. She just had major surgery. She is probably recovering right now as we speak, but she was, yet another person, another woman on the front lines like me, doing what we do because it needed to be done. And that is if that is not a description of matriarchy, I do not know what is. Doing what needs to be done because it needs to be done. What is right in front of us. And many of us, many women had been holding the center for a long, long time. And frankly, we're kind of tired. But we do have to, put this in the context of the success and failure of the society that we live in now, which was always the whole point of doing whatever it is that we have done as women, as Indigenous leaders, trying to make sure that we remain and we hold our sovereignty, we hold our communities, we hold them together with duct tape and bloody string if need be, but we hold them together because our promise is to the future. And, I'm going to be speaking to the future, on this show and in other ways. I'm going to be speaking to people I will never meet.
Yeah, I hear to that. And we need to talk about this and talk about it more. The women that came before us, I'm doing an article, Warrior Women's doing an article on, in the Circle that's coming out in June on Stephanie Autumn. And Stephanie Autumn is an interesting person. She was a very young teenager, I think 17 or 18 when Wounded Knee happened, and she was at the occupation. Well, she's, that's how many years ago, and she's still doing the work for her community, and she's not taking selfies and showing off that she's working with our relatives that are in prison and helping them out, but still doing the work.
Still doing the work. And, some of us, plaster our faces everywhere. That's fine. I love the pictures of young women with their beautiful jewelry and, the beautiful stuff that represents our pride. Because, my God, we were literally shot dead for expressing any indigeneity whatsoever. So I don't have a problem with you're on the phone, you're not on the phone, you're on Facebook and Twitter and yada, 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 because that is how people communicate. That's the new moccasin telegraph. You know what I mean?
Right.
It is. And it changes over time as media changes, as the way that we communicate changes. But the important thing is we still communicate. And so, your stories of meeting some of the old ones who are still doing the work, is a really important thing. And, I like to think that, life is a river, time is a river, being is a river. We come and we go and we are in the flow and we are all pieces of that river. And, the work that we do contributes to the flow of the river, whether it is, healthy water or trying to fix water that is not healthy. It is important for us to realize that, that the people who come before us inform the environment that we operate in now. And that what we do now is going to matter to the people in the future. And I want to shout out to Deb Haaland, who won her New Mexico gubernatorial race. I want to shout out to Peggy Flanagan, who's running for U.S. Senate in Minnesota. And damn it, Indians in Minnesota need to get out and work for that woman and anybody who's listening, give her money, give Deb money. We need, and Sharice Davids in Kansas, we need women and we need natives in every office, whether it's tribal, state, local, national. It matters. Every single solitary Native person who's running out there. Chris James is running for Congress in Arizona. We've got lots and lots of natives, more natives running. So
That's
shout
right.
out to them.
That's the last word here on Native Roots Radio. Thanks, Gwen, and we'll see you soon. We'll see everybody. Have a great weekend. This has been Native Roots Radio.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis Air. Air